Good morning, Max.
Hey, good morning. Just early FYI, I will need to drop at past, and I'm driving, so might not be fully capable of thinking.
Multitasking indeed. Thank you. Yeah, I had Zoom problems last couple of times. It took longer than usual, so I just got started early.
Yeah, I was just in slow traffic and just had the possibility to not need to concentrate on anything, so I dialed in, and that's why I'm early.
Good. And one of these days, we're going to have a Tesla self-driving, so we can take Zoom call while it's being driven around.
Oh no, I was so stupid and paid more for a less good car, and I'm trying to enjoy BMW self-driving.
I had the very obligatory BMW phase earlier in my career. I had an original mid-80s BMW M6 when M's were not in production. They made it for 2 years. And I tracked that car in the US. In the sense, I did track racing after maintaining the car for a while. So that was a very necessary and very enjoyable phase.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, I just have boring driving here to do. It's driving in parallel to the Alps, so the view is good, but small roads, a lot of cars, and so it's just annoying.
Is it evening now?
Oh yeah, it's 5 p.m. So the sun is still above the mountains, but soon it will get a lot darker.
Morning, Shivam.
Morning, Som. Morning, Max.
Hey, good morning. Good late evening for you.
Yeah. Max, I was thinking that the demonstration for the Magma Galaxy, if we have some time today on this call, I can display it.
I thought we would schedule official show and tell for that and use a show and tell slot.
Okay.
So just if you, we could also do it here. It's recorded. We can highlight it, but we would have advertised it more and would have.
Well, there is no agenda. That's why I'm just creating the file on our wiki, so I don't see anything. That's why I thought, okay, if we have something, we can cover it up.
Yeah, if you have it prepared.
It's nothing more to prepare. I can just spin up the VM and I can start explaining all the things, all the roles, like how things are working. So yeah, I can take care of that. If we can let more people join, and then we can discuss.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. Yeah. We might think about pairing the charmed Magma and snap packaging with something else then, or maybe have a half an hour or so show and tell for that. That's fine.
Yeah, because right now I don't see that, okay, we have much stuff. That's why I thought, okay, let's cover it. So here's the link for the wiki, and but I've just created it. There's nothing in there.
I'm currently driving, so I can't be very helpful here at the moment right now.
Okay, so. Okay. Let's wait for a few minutes and let's see if somebody have anything in mind. Then we can discuss.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. The one disadvantage of taking that meeting here now is that we already had 5 minutes of unnecessary and unrelated small talk. But maybe we can just point them to the YouTube link with a timestamp so that it starts with the interesting stuff then.
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. So even if in this call, if there are no other topics, even if my session is taking more time, so we have something to discuss. I was just thinking that we are not on our timeline. Let me see if Jordan can also join.
I had just one thing I wanted to start circulating, and that is identifying features in 1.9 to do a security review of. So we wouldn't do the review here, but use this time to identify any new code.
Okay. Okay, so we are.
I think a lot of.
Yeah, so I was just about to say that, okay, we are past 3 minutes, and if we don't have any other agendas for today, so I can start. Otherwise, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we had a lot of refactoring of code. And that might not appear directly as a feature, but might be something that could get security review, but not sure about that. I don't know how we would steer that. Maybe first on exposed interfaces and. I still think we have a lot of outdated dependencies which have higher priority than security review right now.
Yeah, like
we still install OpenSSL in a version from 2012. Yes. I like to bring that up.
Wait, is this? I want to just make sure I'm not jumping the queue as far as the agenda for this meeting goes.
I think you might jump it a little bit. So the agenda we have for today until now is your proposal and Shubham talking about Magma Galaxy. And
I think the Galaxy stuff is going to be really substantive and awesome, and the security stuff is going to be pretty quick. So let's knock that down. Everybody,
Lucas, if you have something, then yeah, please go ahead, because I was just trying to show my project that if there are no other topics, but you have something, then yeah, please go ahead.
Well, getting to, okay, so this conversation is about architectural review and looking at new code to do basically a security review or kind of a threat modeling session. And kind of getting organized for that. And what I said was, if we have new features, let's identify them and, book conversations to sit and do a threat modeling session. And Maxim said, there's refactoring and, but really the upgrades are probably more pressing.
Did I lose audio connection?
Can you hear me? How am I audible?
Yes, Lucas.
Okay, so it seems to me that there's a larger goal to accomplish with the kind of threat modeling sessions, and that is sort of shift left on security and absorbing threat modeling into our ordinary processes. And the way I imagine that working is like this. We have some new chunk of work that's being delivered, and that comes with certain risks. Like, it's enough that there are risks associated with it. To mitigate those risks, we book a conversation where we diagram what's being delivered using a data flow diagram. And then we talk about the risks created in that design and potential mitigations. So it's like it's a single sitting modeling session. If we find anything more substantive, we move on, and if we don't, we consider it complete. And that's a practice that I want to absorb into our organization as a whole, like a new way of absorbing security modeling as part of delivering new code. So there's both an immediate deliverable, which is a little questionable about whether refactored code calls for that kind of conversation, whether it's substantial enough to create real risks. And then there's the downstream benefit of creating that practice of doing security reviews when we deliver new code. What are people's thoughts?
I just lost 2 minutes of context. Sorry, I lost connection.
Okay, it was all context. And Jordan just joined us. So I'll rewind. And I'm sorry, this isn't on the agenda. I'm Jordan, to fill you in. So the main item for today is Magma Galaxy. And as a short stopping point beforehand, we're talking about a threat modeling sessions for any new code or features. And I suggested, first of all, that this is a practice we want to introduce in our world, that whenever we introduce something that's substantial enough that there could be risks, that we have a conversation, a real-time conversation where we work together to create a data flow diagram of the feature or the code, and then talk about potential weaknesses or attacks and mitigations, and come away from that conversation with follow-ups to mitigate any of those risks or to consider it safe.
I mean,
Yeah.
This is good practice. So if we manage to introduce this is very good practice, and it will make sure that we are preventing the security threats rather than reacting on the security threats. So it's always good to be one step ahead. Now the question is how much we want in the beginning to enforce this, and how much we want to allow this to, let's say, to people to come organically to this conclusion that we need to introduce. I mean, in my opinion, I would say that we need to enforce it as soon as possible. But this depends, how the community will react on such enforcement. Meaning, we will not allow something to be merged if it didn't pass through the security check, as example.
Maybe like there's a kind of a de minimis sort of conversation about whether or not this new module could create any risks. And so, like, the thing that you always have to do is say whether or not this new work could introduce risks.
Correct, but the question is, how do we make sure that for each new thing we have this conversation?
Yeah.
And this is when I was saying, I mean, maybe we put also security as part of the approval for the merge. So merge should pass through the security check, especially if it is a new feature.
Fun fact, we are already understaffed in review capacity. So
Yeah.
asking more from a review is not come for free.
What if we had a check for a note on security? Like when you do a RFC, an IETF RFC for a new media type, you always have to have a security note. In fact, I think all RFCs need a security note. Whether or not they flag anything is different, but they have to make comments on what the security implications are. And so we could require some kind of comment on security implications. Super easy and fast, takes no extra time.
So just
So-
adding it to the template text of a pull request. Have you considered security?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not just do it?
I mean, it's good for a start. And I mean, we will not ask only have you considered security, but please explain what are the security threats and how did you address them? Something in that line of yes, otherwise everybody will take it. It will say, yeah, we considered, and they didn't even thought about it. But let's ask more, you know, more open-ended question rather than yes, no question.
Okay. Here's my to-do item. Add a required security note to the pull request template text along the lines of, please explain any security threats and how you address them. And then beyond that, let's be looking for ways to introduce this new practice of security reviews and kind of absorbing that into our culture. Maybe as part of the 1.9 release process, in the next 1.9 meeting, let's talk about which items call for a review. Okay, if everybody's good with where that landed, I will cede the remainder of my time.
Okay, so if there are no further questions, should I move forward with my demonstration?
I second that.
Okay, so I can start by sharing my screen and let me do it. Okay. Is the screen visible to you all?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a project that is used just for deploying the Magma's orchestrator component, which includes the entire Kubernetes cluster, the Helm charts and Docker images, all those things, but with a very simple and few steps. And right now, just for testing it out, we can use this multipass docs, and I can just using this, I can just deploy it. So if multipass is not running, we can restart it. I have done that already. And I'm just launching. First, let me show you that, okay, there is nothing out there. Nothing is running. Well, nothing is running. And for the CPU, I can give 6 here because I have like 12 cores. So it works for me. So I'm just spinning up a VM with 100 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM, and 6 CPU. This is one part. Next, once this is ready, we can go inside the VM using this command. It will take maximum a minute and our VM will be ready. This is right now using the Jammy version. Previously it was using Focal. So yeah, in Jammy it works. So now we are inside our freshly created VM. This is our IP 10.28. And moving back, once our VM is ready, VM can be anywhere, like on public cloud, private cloud, or a local system. We just have to copy this quick install command. and we have to paste it and hit enter. So what this will ask us that first, what will be our domain? Our domain can be also public domain, but if we are trying to deploy things locally, in this case, it can be local domain. We can hit enter, we can enter any domain. If not, we can just hit enter, the default one will be taken on. Second, the NMS organization also, which will become our subdomain at the very end. We can also take it as default. Our email ID, default is admin. Our password, default is also admin. And now last question is that, do we wish to install the latest orchestrator? So this script has not been updated. So if we actually say yes, so it will actually deploy a previous version, which was older than 1.8. So by default, we can enter because you see N is capital. So it will take the whatever the current version have, not the latest version, because code is not updated. So once that we have answered all the questions, what this will do, first of all, it will install Ansible on this newly created VM. This is one part. Then it will create a new Magma user. Actually, I can go over the code and display how things are running. Okay. So first we check if system is Linux. Then we check, okay, are we running as root? Then we answer all these questions. We already done that. And we install Ansible, we install YQ for editing our YAML files. Then we create a user Magma with password here. This is the password. Password is actually also Magma. And then as a Magma user, we start cloning our repo. First of all, we create an SSH key for Ansible's operations. We clone our repo. Then if this part we skipped it, otherwise, if we would have been using the latest version, we would have changed the script to install the latest Docker images and latest Helm charts. We are not doing that, so this is skipped. And we are just updating all the parameters for, let's say, username, domain name, organization, email ID, password into our main host file. And after this is done, we are just moving on to the deployment part. So I can show you the host file. And this is the host file. So on this particular file, all the things are updated via these shell scripts, and internally roles are picking this up. So if we come back here, we see that, okay, one by one, things are running, starting with prerequisites role, where we are downloading the RK binary, downloading Helm, downloading kubectl, installing the package, all the prerequisites that we need. I can actually show you the code. So, yeah. So all these things are happening. Some things I'm skipping because some things were giving me error for like getting the latest version. I built the script, but sometimes GitHub new releases are happening which are not stable. So I created this code like for getting the latest version, but this was giving error sometimes. So I just commented this out and moved back to the static versions. Then these all Helm repositories will be added. And at the end, Magma repository can vary if it's coming from an official repository or if it's coming from a private repository. This an individual user can add it. This time it is coming from official. But yeah, if we have to try the latest code, we can just give another flag and it will use it. And similar to that, once prerequisite is done, like adding the Magma's Helm repository here, we move on to the Docker. We install Docker, we add Docker to the user group. Then we test Docker with downloading an Alpine image. Once Docker is installed, next step is to set up a Kubernetes cluster. We just do the prerequisite like creating SSH key and registering it and adding it to the authorized key list. Then we set up directories. Then this step, it takes most of the time, which is installing Rancher-based Kubernetes engine. The reason is that it downloads very huge Docker images, like 2 GB, 3 GB worth of Docker images, this thing download, and install the entire cluster. This is the one of the most time-consuming tasks. I can show you. Yeah, on prerequisite, we are at this level 20s. We already have a template here, like all the Docker images are listed here, like on which version of Docker will be used, which like Kubernetes version will be used, and CNI plugin and all those things. I have hard coded it here, so we can get similar results. And this was the last step, like installing the engine. Then we are just copying the kubeconfig file to the right location for further installing of our application. We are still installing. This will take time. After installation, I guess we move to, once Kubernetes is done, we install OpenEBS. OpenEBS is nothing, just a storage controller. It will manage all our persistent volumes and persistent volume claims. And once this is done, we install MetalLB. MetalLB is our load balancer. If there are any services, which is just one in our scenario, for asking the load balancer for an IP. So MetalLB is the one who will assign an IP to a service. So we are doing that. Postgres is just a database that we use on Magma's orchestrator. So this is just a very simple one-liner thing for installing database. I can show you that. Yeah. This is nothing. It's a very simple Helm deployment of a Postgres. Password and all the database. This is I have hard coded it here. Show you. These values are hard coded. Chart version I have also hard coded, so we are getting similar results. Okay, coming back. Yeah, this next after Postgres, we have moved to the secret. This is a very important role, which took some time, because the official way that we are doing on the AWS method, the Terraform method, was very easy, I would say, because on a single shell scripts, we are generating all the secrets. But that actually did not work properly in the Ansible method. So I had to use an Ansible method of creating certificates. So just for creating 2 certificates, I have to write all this code. But yeah, this is doing this is the right way. So for every single certificate, we are generating like signing request, then we are signing the certificate, then we are creating a certificate, then we're deleting the signing request. And this is how we have done for all the certificates. Let me also check. Okay, yeah. So things are moving forward. So I can show you where we left off. Yeah. Okay, install Kubernetes engine, then creating directory, copying the file, then installing OpenEBS, setting it as a default storage class. So our persistent volume claims get set. And then setting up the MetalLB. You see, we are skipping these tasks. The reason is MetalLB I have modified in a way that it can work on EC2 instance, it can work on a kind cluster, it can work on different environments. So right now it will just use the nodes IP, which is this one. And it picked, my code actually picked the IP automatically. We don't have to give the IP. So once this is done, then we move on to the database. We have installed it. Then this is the secrets role. And now we are generating all those secrets. And when this is done, we move on to the orchestrator role. Orchestrator role is the one that will deploy all the orchestrator components using Helm charts. So we start with creating these volume claims, like 2 GB, 20 GB, Postgres, Grafana, all these volumes. And then we register all these secrets and put the value in the orchestrated deployment in the Helm repository. And this is the second task, which takes most amount of time. The reason is that first we have to initialize it. So, okay, it's done. It took around 1 minute, 35 seconds. So our orchestrator Helm chart is installed. Now it's installing LT chart, then it's installing Federation Gateway chart. Then these like in domain proxy and
That's kind of a short password, Siobhan.
Yeah, I know. I soon have to format my system. I'll change then. I was just testing this Linux Mint. This was just for testing. Okay. So, okay. Now, once this deployment is done, we can jump back here. Yeah. First, we have to switch to the Magma user. Initially, it was Ubuntu, but I figured, okay, many people might have different usernames. So I just kept Magma for everything. So we can just do it like this. Now we have to see, okay, once all pods are ready, we can set up the NMS login like this. Let's check if once all pods are ready, you have to get pods. We see that most of our pods are in running state. This pod is still in the initializing state, and similar for this one. So what we can do, we can go to this directory, and we can set up our username and password. So what this playbook will do, this will set up an organization for us, register our certificate, and then it will create an account for us using our username and password that we provided initially. After this only, we will be able to access the dashboard. Okay, now we see that, okay, our account has been created. What we now have to do, if let's say we want to register this to Access Gateway, we will be needing this. So I'm just giving the link. This is our rootca.pem file. But right now what we can do, we can move toward the accessing our dashboard. So if we can just copy this and yes. Okay, now we're in. And now we can set up our new network. It can be test. Type can be LV. Save. Then it's reload. And that's how our entire orchestrator is up and running with, I guess all the servers are up now. You can simply check. You see that everything is running. And basically that's the gist of it. Now we are open for questions.
And which Helm charts are used from the Magma repository or from the Helm charts you have published before?
Okay. So let me show you actually. So when we come to the repository, I added an option that we can bring our own Magma repositories because I have not hard-coded it. But the default value comes from here, which is the official Linux Foundation JFrog artifact.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
So the official Helm charts are used in this,
but not the Docker images. Docker images are not coming from official. If I can show you, it will be like yeah, if you see the Docker registry, it's just simply Magma Core. Magma Core is nothing but coming from the Docker hub. Yeah. And if we can just go here and do like Docker images, we will see, okay, these are the Docker images which are used.
Yeah, but we can change this to use the official images.
Yes,
from
yes.
Yeah,
I'm working
this
on a
is not
migration
finished.
plan for bringing this into the mainstream. There we will do all the necessary changes for making this fully official.
Another question, why are you using RancherOS?
The Rancher cluster, why are we using it?
Yes.
No specific reason. This was just the easiest one to set up. Plus, this is more robust and tested in the enterprise environment. That's why we are using it. Otherwise, I have designed my script to work with any of cluster of your choice. You can bring Minikube, you can bring EKS, you can bring Kind cluster. You can just use any cluster of your choice. You just have to do. Let me show you. So this is the role which deploys the Kubernetes cluster. If you have your own cluster, let's say it is a managed cluster, and you have your storage solution, you have your network installation, so you can skip these roles, and you can directly start from this PostgreSQL role, and then you can deploy the entire thing on your own cluster. You don't have to rely on Rancher.
Okay, so theoretically it can be deployed on a, let's call it vanilla cluster created with
the
kubeadm
method. The kubeadm. Yeah, absolutely. This can be deployed anywhere. Yeah, but this is the easiest way that I found. And plus, this is very robust.
Understood. I mean, for a user which doesn't have cluster, definitely this is the easiest way for him to start understanding the cluster. But if I already have existing cluster with created, let's say with kubeadm, then we can deploy it just by disabling the step for the cluster and for the OpenEBS, because definitely if I have cluster, I will have the solution, the storage solution.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you are deploying KubeADM or you're on your prem, if you have storage solution, then you can use this. Like if you don't have, if you have storage solution, if you have networking solution, then yeah, you can skip all these 9. If not, you can also use these.
Correct.
Yeah. Any further questions?
I wonder if we could talk about points of potential insecurity and mitigating this. For example, the default passwords work okay on local, but if the domain is remote, you'd want to have real passwords. Yeah.
On let me tell you, on the security end, I did not do anything, right? Because this password is actually just simply Magma. The username is Magma, password is Magma. I did not do any security testing. That's not my domain right now in terms of when I build this. But yeah, definitely, if we are bringing this into the mainstream, security should be tested because this can be easily hacked. I don't know. Maybe we should test it out if this have to become an official method. We know on the AWS side, AWS taking care of the security part, but in this side, this is an on-prem solution. We have to do those testings.
I propose that we initially absorb this with a recommendation that it be used for local development environments rather than production until we have recommendations for secure deployment.
Absolutely, I totally agree that because this is not security tested. Yeah, definitely you can test it out locally on your on-prem, on your lab, but on moving this toward the production environment, on the security point of view, I don't think even I can recommend this.
Yeah, I mean, if I can give my comments now, if there are no other questions, by the way, somebody has questions before I start giving my comments. Okay, I take the silence as no. So, I mean, I just spent 3 days trying to deploy the Helm charts, which are from the repository, and trying to fix lots of issues with the latest releases, especially Postgres and latest changes of the charts. And having seen how this was deployed in 10 minutes, I'm pretty much jealous. So yeah, this is beyond fantastic. You did amazing job, and it will be pity if this doesn't become our mainstream. I mean, I argue that this is even simpler than what we have for the AGW, and this is how it should be.
Best recommend.
Yeah, I mean, please open proposal for the TSC to put this in the mainstream. Tell us how much effort it would be required. Initially, we will put it, as Lucas suggested, we will put it for the development, and then yes, correct. Yeah. And then we will modify it for the security. We will have subsequent maybe 1 or 2 proposals to modify it for the security. But please bring it. I will be more than happy to put it to sponsor it over there, and I think somebody else will jump to second it.
Okay, sure.
So fantastic. I mean, again, amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Any more questions? I take the silence as no, and then thank you, everyone. This was it. If you have any further questions, then don't hesitate to ask on Slack. Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Since we don't have anything else on the agenda, I second it.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, y'all. Shivam, that's pretty fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
Indeed, Shivam, this was great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.